They are your local experts in chiropractic care, and with Wyss Family Clinic of Chiropractic, we're talking about the Brain Blossom program.
It is something that you can do online at home. Doctors Julie and Skip are here. Good morning.
Morning.
All right, so what is the Brain Blossom program?
So it's a program that we use in our office. It's one of the pillars that we do in addition to chiropractic. What we know is that we have stress in our environment. And when we begin development, we learn certain things. So we have primitive reflexes, and sometimes those don't always get integrated. And so those are little windows into our brain of how we react to our environment. And so we have different teaching methods, different classes, different workshops that we can do to start to integrate things into our brain, and that helps us to better acclimate to our environment.
And you say we should think of our brain like a flower with like the beginnings of a seed?
Yeah, it blossoms. It's really cool. Let's get just a touch sciencey. Cool with that. So your brain develops bottom to top, back to front, right to left. Okay, so the biggest thing with children and as we get into adulthood is what? It's our ability to actually communicate back and forth. It's called the prefrontal cortex. For a reason, it's actually where we get all of our personality, our ability to cope with stress, all of that comes from right here in our development. You have to develop here last. So the brain literally blossoms back to front, from vision all the way to our ability to communicate. So with children and with adults, whenever we have any sort of traumatic event in our life, we'll get a pegging in our brain and we'll get what they call a deflection, where we literally will change the way our brain develops and we'll change the way that we can actually converse back and forth. And that leads to children with neurodeflective disorders or NDD or autism or ADD, ADHD. So this is a program to help that in adjunct to chiropractic that helps these children and adults just accelerate in their learning. It's phenomenal.
What does the concept of watch and wonder have to do with this program?
So that's where we take kind of a hands-off approach, because lots of times people are so quick to put things in or to add things, and we're literally watching how our kids interact in their environment. And so kids are heading back to school right now, and so if at home your child is maybe like really rambunctious, wild, and just is crazy, and then your teacher reports of like, you have the perfect student. He sits perfectly still in his desk, does his work, and then you're kind of like, who are you talking about? So that is a child. Yeah, that's a child in a stress environment then. So in his brain, he's reverting back to how his brain first was designed and programmed. And so we go in and we allow that child to then progress into better brain function. So then those behaviors are what they need to be across the board.
So you sit and literally watch them. So we do very, very in-depth testing at Wyss Family Clinic anyways, but this is literally a hands-off and watch and see, because when you have a kid come into a room, like Lisa, if I came here in Mullane and I just sat here and put my hands down and looked at everything, and then I had somebody come in here and literally run up and touch the cameras and run up and touch the chairs. Well, who actually touched everything first? Was it me, or was it the person that touched everything? Who touched more? It was actually me. Because as I'm visualizing everything in this room, I know exactly how it feels. I know exactly how this feels. I know exactly how this feels just by looking at it. Most people, like kids that are tactile touch learners, they don't process in their brain of what things feel, so they have to touch everything to get that sensation back. And that's that higher functioning. So that's the kid that goes in the room and touches everything. Or it's the kid that's like me that nonstop talks. And it's how we're basically processing our environment every day. And those are all windows into brain development, which need to actually be addressed to help the kid, to help the child function.
So it's even for adults, and it's like with a baby, it's
adults,
like
it's fun.
One child they put everything in their mouth, or maybe a different child didn't. Well, at that point, that is a good behavior to have, to put things in the mouth, because those are the reflexes, those are the things of how the brain functions at that time. But then if that child didn't do that, right, then they're missing that brain step.
Really quickly, I want you to go over real quick the ebook that people will get when they send you an email.
Yep, so just they can reach out to us, and we have basically a book of information kind of to help you get through some of the stressors here of getting back to school, and just to kind of know that, hey, there's options out there to raise our kids, to raise our families the best way that we possibly can.
For sure.
To get your hands on that, or I guess your fingers if it's an ebook, info@wyssclinic.com to request the book. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.